Speaking of giving somebody the bird, see, professional radio transition, we're in an unusual situation here with this president because his name is on a lot of products in our stores, and that's causing quite the unusual situation for retailers and consumers alike. And that's why I want to bring back on the Grip Tight Foundation Newsmaker line a friend of this program, a crisis communications consultant. And Krista, I did this last time. I tried your last. It's a beautiful last name, and I want to try it again. Krista Castaneda.
Very good.
There you go. I had you coach me because it's a beautiful last name, and I appreciate you coming on the show. So one of the challenges that I would think a retailer has, Krista, you're a crisis communications expert, is there people putting lists on the internet of businesses that they ought to boycott, either because they carry Trump products or they have been supportive of Trump. What's your take on all of this? What's a business to do in this kind of political environment?
Well, it's going to depend on what the nature of the attack is. If what your issue is that somebody in your company has spoken out either in favor of or against the Trump administration, then what you want to do is make sure that everybody in the company is on board with how that's going to impact your clients, your consumers, your stock price before you take that step. If, on the other hand, what you're doing is carrying a Trump-branded product, such as the Ivanka Trump line of shoes, maybe you're going to make the decision, like Nordstrom, that it doesn't sell so well, and why take the risk? It's going to depend, but it's a fascinating question.
It is a fascinating question, and I was looking in some information, Krista, earlier in the week about the Nordstrom controversy, and Nordstrom was reporting that the Ivanka Trump line started to drop significantly after the election. So Nordstrom did say to the public, look, it's just not selling all that well, but you could also make the case it started to not sell so well post-November of last year. But that is what a store that's got to decide what it's going to stock. They have to take that into account, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, that sounds more like a routine course of business decision. Now, Nordstrom's particular challenge is getting that information out before it looked like to the public that they were just retaliating against Ivanka Trump.
Yeah.
And I don't think they got ahead of that story.
Yeah, that is a fantastic point. You did hear about it a little bit later, but it's one of the things that, Krista, you and I have talked about before. This is such a new world for companies with this president, and still companies are getting caught by surprise by the fallout of their actions. That's what I think you saw with Nordstrom.
Yes, absolutely. You know, boycotts have been around for a very long time. What's interesting about the current era is everything is so immediate with Facebook and Twitter and social media. You know, people, and we're so politically divided, you know, people can push people into action and activism so much more easily than in past times.
And I saw, Krista, yesterday when I knew that you and I were going to talk, another story that WHO Radio shared online, that Sears and Kmart are going to start dropping Trump home merchandise. Now, let me go the opposite way on this, because obviously a significant portion of the country voted for Trump and a significant portion of the country voted against and is very upset that he got elected. It's got to be a fine line for these businesses, isn't it, Krista, that you don't want to alienate Trump voters on the other side of the fence either?
Well, that's true. What I'm guessing is happening in these big companies is they know who their customers are, and they know what their demographics are, and they have a pretty good idea of which side of the political spectrum they fall on. So I'm guessing that most of these companies are making a very calculated decision as to what's best for their business interests.
That is a fantastic point, Krista. So if you know the demographics of your customers and you think it might benefit you to say, well, we're just not going to be carrying these Trump products anymore, then you're going to get out and say that. You're not trying, I guess what you're saying is you're not trying to appeal to absolutely everybody. You've got a core audience that you want to appeal to.
Exactly.
No, that is a terrific point. So, Krista, we've talked before about your advice to companies in this new era, and we talked about this in light of that Trump is tweeting out negative things about companies that he's mad about, whether they're moving jobs somewhere else or they're not going to carry Ivanka's line anymore. How do you get out in front? Let's say you're a business person. You wake up tomorrow, and online you see that somebody now has announced that there's going to be a boycott of your business. How do you handle that in a professional way? What is the best way to communicate to people about something like that?
Well, again, the Boy Scout rule, prepare in advance. Always be prepared. I mean, these companies are probably doing every single day a new threat assessment, and threats being threats to the business about what people are going to say, what people are going to do in light of the latest from the administration or Donald Trump on his personal accounts. So, again, figure out what the latest issue is, figure out how it impacts your business, figure out how it's going to impact your customers, and have a plan.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering, Krista. Let's go straight down the middle. Let's sell. I think you just made a fabulous point about you got to know your audience. But let's say, I own an ice cream shop, and and I want to appeal to both the Trump supporters and the Trump opponents. Is that possible, or has it become impossible because we're so emotional about whether or not we supported Trump or not?
Well, I think if you're not carrying Trump-branded ice cream or Trump-branded sprinkles, you can probably play it down the middle. I think it's a lot harder when you're carrying those product lines.
That's a great point. And so do you think that basically businesses are forced to make a decision? Krista, if you're going to carry, say, the Trump home furnishings, is there any way to play it down the middle, or are you going to have to make a decision ultimately as to whether or not it's hurting or helping your business to carry these products?
I think you're going to have to make a decision as to whether it's best for your business, best for your shareholders in either case. But I'll also say this. Boycotts typically don't last very long in terms of their effectiveness. Will this wash out over time? It very well may. So that's another thing to think about. That
is a great answer. So, Krista, thanks so much for joining me today. Really interesting perspective on this, and hope you'll have a great day. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I had never thought about it.